Hello, good morning. It's Q here, and we are back with The Speaker is With Me. I told you guys that I will be back shortly with a message for you all after I figured out what it was that God wanted to share with me. And this past week or so, I had a very interesting encounter with God, I want to call it. It was a blessing for me. It is something that gave me more insight on why I need to do a thing when God says it, and it was encouragement for me. So that thing was my last message. I was kind of just saying if there's places that God tells you to go or things He's saying for you to say when He's sharing those things with you, for you to do them, for you to say them, right? And just so you can understand where I'm coming from, I'm going to explain a bit without trying to give too much out. But I want to always share with you my experience, because I know that my experience is something new for me every time He reveals something else, right? But I also know that my experience and things that I'm going through, it helps somebody else, right? You never know who's watching you. So what happened to me recently was I had a friend who reached out to me. And this friend, they wanted to know if there was something that God had shared with me about them, because they had received a message from God to reach out to me, because they had seen it, whereas they reached out to me and whatever that thing was, it was accurate, but they just couldn't remember what that was, and they just wanted to come to me, right, and see if I would share that with them. When I got this message at that time, I was already just moments before that asking God what's next, right? I often do this when I want to know, okay, God, what's next for me? What do you want me to do now, right? This is not just for my journey, but this can be even throughout my day. What do you want me to do now, God? What's next this week you need me to do? Who you need me to encounter, God, right? And I was just asking this question, what's next, because I realized that, there's a lot of people around us that's giving so much information that we don't want to be caught up in them, right? I just thank God for this moment right now. I just do. But we don't want to get so caught up in them. And when I was doing this, I look and I see I get this message, and I'm really shocked from who it comes from at this moment, right? So I'm shocked because it's like, wow, I didn't even expect this person to ask this question. I thought they would say something like, oh, keep going and doing what you're doing. I get a lot of that, right? So when I see this person is sending me this particular message, have I received something from them because they seen it themselves, that God showed them this, I was blown away. Why was I blown away? I was blown away because indeed God had for sure shown me different things, right, for this particular person. However, some of the things that God may have shown me, because I wasn't confident in what that was that I was seeing, I wasn't comfortable going to share with the person before they came to me. All of this has a reason behind why I'm saying it, okay? So I sat there for a moment on, wow, am I going to say yes? What am I going to say about this? Not second guessing for a moment that wasn't God. I knew that God sent them in that moment. I was asking God what's next for me. I was asking God what He needed me to do next. And see, what this thing is, not only with that person, she was a connection piece to what He needed me to do next. Glory be to God. She was a connection piece for what He needed me to do next. See, at that moment when she came to me, I thought she was only coming to me for information, to get an understanding, and she was. And we both later realized that she was a connection piece to get me to where God needed me to go to. He needed me to get to my next. He needed me to do this because He had a message waiting for me as more confirmation for my calling. Glory be to God. So I share this today because once she came to me and I shared with her, because I did not want to hold back. I didn't want to lie. Now there's no doubt in my mind that God has sent her. I'm going to share this. right? She then welcomes me to her church, not knowing that God has sent me dreams to go there, not once, not twice, but many of times. I seen in these dreams where God was telling me that there was a message from a pastor at that church. I held back for so long going there because why did I have to go to this church? This past week I mentioned that God brought Jeremiah back up to me. And I mentioned how Jeremiah, he was a prophet. He was a servant, young servant, who ran from the call, right? And God was going to use him to do something wonderful. But because he did not think he was good enough, he tried running from God. But you see, God seen Jeremiah's heart. God knew that person, right? Because this is a call before we even know about we even know about the call ourselves. All right. So when God gave me Jeremiah, he wanted me to go back and reflect on him because he had gave me him previously numerous of times. But he needed me to go back and reflect on Jeremiah because not only was he saying, you're asking me, what do I need you to do next? You're running from something, but I'm giving you the instructions, right? And he was saying that he was sending someone just like he did Jeremiah when he gave him Baruch, right? He sent him someone. Jeremiah needed God to send me somebody to help me. He knew that he was up against something else. He knew he was up against something tough that did not want him to complete his assignment. It was hard for Jeremiah to do this. That's why he tried to run. And God sent Jeremiah Baruch. And see, God did that very thing when he sent this particular person because she was a puzzle piece to my next. As we go throughout life and we see this new thing God wants to do with us, God will bring people to you and you will not fully understand why. But the purpose is always because we're going to work together to get us throughout our journeys. Think now. People God has in your life at the moment. And even if they were just for a moment, their purpose, they may have been someone who got you to a certain point in your life. Even if I think now, there's people who've come into my life that I do not know. And they have been such a blessing to me and my ministry. Whether that was an encouragement message in an inbox, whether it was a donation, whether it was a message themselves to, hey, check this out. But they have been something that have really, truly helped me along this journey. They have been my Baruchs. And see, this particular person who come this past week, she was my Baruch. She assisted me to get to that church that God had already shown me. I went and I looked at these dreams before going to see what exactly did God show me. What do God want me to do? That's why it is so very important that if you're a dreamer, you write down these things. Because we don't just have this wonderful memory where we just remember everything, especially when there are things that he's telling us that will occur that we just be like, yeah, oh, that's so impossible that that'll happen. And they end up being things that will happen, right? And I say that because just like recently, God showed me the skin disease coming up again. I spoke about this a while ago, but God showed me recently about a skin disease coming up and how to watch my daughter's school. And then this past week, my daughter and them had to be out for school. And then this past week, we see what is going on. This monkeypox popping up, right? This skin disease. And that will not be the only skin disease that we see. But God says, you do not know. We do not know what he knows. So when he's giving us particular instructions, it's so very important to write them down, even if it's a thought. Right? Even if it's something that constantly comes up. To jot them down. Because when they actually do come up, now you have something to go back and reference to look at. So I went and looked at what was it that God showed me. How did he need me to approach this situation? Okay, I have to go there. So I go there. There was a message waiting for me throughout just even the service itself, right? Throughout the service itself. And as I listened, it was confirmation because I had heard that from someone else. And I pulled out my notes, making sure I'm noting that too. But I knew that, I couldn't stop there. That I had to go and approach this person because that's what God showed me. He showed me I needed to approach this person. And even if it made no sense to me, even if it could be wrong, I needed to see what that was. I yearned for that answer. I needed to know what it was that God needed me to do. Once doing that, the person instantly spoke into me. They spoke to me. The person I was sent to encounter from that dream and that moment of why I had to go to this place, of why my Baruch, my friend, she had come to me. This person who spoke into me, they said to me all I needed to hear. They confirmed further along my journey. I speak to you today because we are not perfect, and I understand that. And I know that this journey can be just to some, oh, this person got a wild imagination, right? I mean, when we get to talking about God like this, some people just don't see God this way. You just may have to them a wild imagination. But see, when you experience God so much, when you experience God so deep, things that some people just can't even explain. You can't even explain some of these things to them that you see that have occurred, that you've experienced. It's okay to have that wild imagination. All right? Because you're just showing you got the love of God. But I speak to you today that if there's something that God has been speaking to you previously, may this be your confirmation. May God get the glory through this moment. That you'll go and you will go to that place that he showed you. You'll go do that thing that he showed you. You'll go say that thing that he said for you to say. You will share whatever it is that he needs you to share. Remember, we're in a time of the harvest. Not just the harvest for you, not just the harvest of everything that you need, the blessings, the cliche of, oh, how blessed you'll be. But the truth is we're in the harvest of God's people. Those lost, those led astray, right? And if God is sending you someplace to build you stronger or to give you more information or to help get you to a new location or whatever it is, it's detailed enough because I seen how detailed my God was when he sent this woman to me. She had no idea I knew things or had something to share with her. As far as all she knew is that I said things, but for it to be her particular, how would she know that? Unless it was God. Right? God is going to give us confirmation along the way. She then was my puzzle piece to my next. And that person was also confirmation. All right? So, again, I just want to encourage you to step out on faith, right? I want to share this with you because throughout that time of waiting, when I knew I was going to go to this church, of course, church services are usually on a Sunday. So prior to that, I had to wait a couple days before this service was going to occur because I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to this service. And as that was happening, I remember this feeling of something steady, constantly wanting to talk me out of going. Excuse me. And this thing, as it constantly tried to talk me out of going, it wanted to instill fear. And as we know, our God, he's not of fear. And as that was happening, I was constantly like, okay, well, maybe I don't need to go there or something. But I know I seen a thing. I know I seen this thing in a dream. And I know that this person coming to me was extra confirmation. And then it clicked to me that God had me note before. When you feel this feeling of fear, when you feel this something of why you should not, that is always also your confirmation of why you should. That tells you a clue of how closer you are to something else. You guys, for me to have gotten there, and it was nothing to be fearful about, but all things that were a blessing to my journey. Listen to me. It shows me how powerful we must be. It shows me how much God must see something in me that he wants to use, and how much someone, and when I say that, I mean the adversary, must know if it wants to constantly push me away from it. You're so close to something. The reason that at times we don't get to the next is because those things that God has been telling you to do or showing you to do, you won't go do them. All right. This is nothing to beat yourself up about. This is encouragement. That fear, whatever it is inside of you, use that as something to constantly, throughout your weight of getting ready to go do that thing, of a reason of why you got to talk yourself into doing it. I also want to note this really quick before I let you guys go is before heading out, God, he downloaded this in my spirit. He downloaded Isaiah 54 verses. What was it? He downloaded Isaiah 54 verses 17, right? And as I just pulled my Bible out, I read 16 as well. I read pretty much all before it, that chapter of 54, but I noticed as I was reading, when I read before it, listen to this, check this out. It says, so this is Isaiah 54, 16 and 17, and it says, "See, it is I who created the blacksmith, who fans the coals into flame and forges a weapon fit for its works. And it is I who have created the destroyer to wreak havoc. No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and this is their vindication from me, declares the Lord." So what God showed me here was, he said, he always tells us that he didn't say it will be easy, but nothing will prevail over us, right? And he says that, when I look here, it says, "And it is I who have created the destroyer to wreak havoc." He says, I created the enemy, and it is his job to do such a thing, to wreak havoc, right? And he says, but no weapon forged against you will prevail, but nothing that tries to stop you will prevail. And he says, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. This even includes the enemy, right? Because we do not wrestle against flesh and blood. Flesh. We do not wrestle against people. So who are we wrestling with? Wickedness and high places. There's a different area where we can't see, right? Unless you have spiritual eyes to see such a thing when he's showing us things like this, right? So what God is saying is that I've created him to do such a thing, but I tell you that it shall not prevail against you. Not even when he accuses you of such a thing. So not even when he tell you you can't do something. Not even when he tries to instill this fear into you of why you can't. And he says, this is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. And he says, so when he says, this is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, like the heritage, right? This is throughout, it didn't just start with you. This has been generations and those before us, right? And the Bible is just an example. It's only a snippet of that. God does this with many that we don't even know about. But he says this has been the heritage of the servants. So those who do these things for God, as we work for God, right? And he says, and this is their vindication from me, declares the Lord. And this is the vindication. And this is why you will overcome. This is why nothing will prevail over you. This is why you can do it, because it is his promise to you, being his servant. You feel me? Are you following me? All right. So again, as encouragement. What are we going to do? We're going to head out to these places that God sends us. We're going to do these things that God tells us to do. And I'm sorry again for the video recording being so long. I didn't even expect that, but I know that means this is a blessing on this message. I pray that you receive it in Jesus' name. And my brothers, my sisters, I love you guys. You guys be blessed.